Saints wide receiver Chris Olave is headed to the IR and he could miss the rest of the season. This is definitely the right move, especially since the fact that the Saints are one of the worst teams in the NFL. There's just no point in him coming back and risking a reconcussion. He's already suffered 2 this year that we know of. So for him to potentially suffer another one for meaningless games in November and December for the Saints would just be stupidity. So I'm glad he's probably done for the year. His totals for the 2024 year was 32 receptions, 400 yards, and only 1 touchdown. And that's the thing, man. Chris Olave, I've touched on this in previous videos, but I'm a big Chris Olave fan. I really think he could be a top 15 receiver if he had a better QB. He really hasn't had the best quarterback play so far in his career in the NFL, and going forward, man, scary stuff. It's almost like in that Tua sort of territory of just concussions and is it worth it and what are we really doing? Before he suffered his one in week 9, his second concussion in 1 year, he was considering wearing the guardian cap, and I'm sure if he returns, which I hope he does, I'm sure he will wear a guardian cap. I really, really hope he does, because I really think he's a treat to watch, man. He is an explosive player, big player type of dude, and he's a game changer. He just hasn't had the best quarterbacks to really prove that so far. It's almost like Garrett Wilson to a certain extent, and we're seeing Garrett Wilson really pop this year with Aaron Rodgers, and I feel like Chris Olave could do the same thing. I'm not saying Chris Olave is on Garrett Wilson's level. I think Garrett Wilson could be a top 10 receiver easy in my opinion, but I still think very highly of him. Like I said, top 15 easy if he's with a good quarterback. And that's the thing, man, like the Saints have a lot of things to kind of figure out with their QB sort of situation going forward. I know they're going to have probably a good draft pick, but guess what? There's a lot of bad teams in the NFL right now, and they're all kind of tied. So just because the Saints have a terrible record right now, it's not a guarantee that they'll get a top 3 or even a top 5 pick. That's how crazy unbalanced the NFL is right now. There's just been a lot of bad teams this year. So yeah, they got to figure out if they're going to bring back Derek Carr. I know all Saints fans, and just me as a non-Saints fan, definitely do not want to see Derek Carr back in a Saints uniform next year. I think they should just cut him, move on, just fully reboot the roster, draft a quarterback, and go from there. And as far as Chris Olave, man, you know, suffering 5 concussions that we know of so far in your NFL career, like I said, that's not good considering that he is still a young player in this league, and you know, you just got to start thinking about his future and how long he really has left in this game. And I just don't really think the timelines fit right now with Chris Olave potentially being 1 snap away from calling it a career and the Saints, you know, starting from rock bottom. So, you know what? If I'm the Saints, I facilitate some sort of trade to move Chris Olave to some sort of contender, perhaps, just out of respect to him. And I know like he hasn't been a long time Saint like Alvin Kamara or anything like that, but just like you kind of got to feel bad for the guy, you know, explosive, good young wide receiver that's just been kind of screwed up by not being in the best sort of organization and franchise. So I don't know if they'll do that, but I really hope they do. Again, man, it's just, he could be 1 snap away and his career could be over. So scary stuff, and we'll see if he comes back or not. Let me know if you think he's going to come back, and what would you do if you were in his shoes. Let me know in the comments. And would you want to see Chris Olave traded, and to which team would you want to see him on? I really don't have a preference on where I would want to see him go. I just think anywhere where there's a better quarterback, you know, it doesn't have to be with Pat Mahomes or anything or anything like that. But imagine him and Jaden Daniels. Imagine him on the Lions. Imagine him on Green Bay. Chris Olave would be a scary, scary dude on those teams. So hopefully that happens. Other injury news around the NFL before Week 10 kicks off. Brian Robinson is set to miss his second straight game with a hamstring injury, but I think the Commanders will be all right. They still have Austin Eckler back there, but still, not having him is definitely a blow in a critical game against the Steelers, which I think the Commanders will take care of the Steelers. I think the hype on the Steelers and Russell Wilson have been a bit premature and just over exaggerated so far. He's only played the Giants and the Jets, so I want to see him against a real team. I know they had extra time to prepare for the Commanders, but we'll see what happens, man. But I got the Commanders definitely winning that game. Let me know if you agree with me. Another big injury for a big Sunday night football game. Will Anderson is out versus the Lions. Now, the Texans are hosting the Lions, and it's reported that Nico Collins could return, and that would be a huge, huge win for the Texans if he can return, because without Nico Collins, man, CJ Stroud has looked not as advertised. He hasn't really looked great, and that Jets game on Halloween was quite brutal. So I feel like if the Texans are going to have any chance at beating the Lions at home, they definitely need Nico Collins there. So, and lastly, we got A.J. Brown and Dallas Goedert set to be available versus the Cowboys. I really don't think the Eagles need all hands on deck to beat the Cowboys, but still, to pick up this win is very critical for them, considering the fact that they're on a short week and they have to host the Commanders on Thursday Night Football, so they kind of want to take care of business. So I guess I understand the urgency from that perspective, but the Eagles should be able to thoroughly handle the Cowboys, I hope, with Cooper Rush. But we'll see how that goes. Division rival games can be funky at times, and you never know. Maybe Cooper Rush will pull a rabbit out of his hat, but we'll see. Let me know who you think is going to win that game. I'm curious. Should be very entertaining regardless. One of the greatest rivals in the NFL. And yeah, man, let me know what you think about Chris Olave, and if you think he should retire, what would you do, and do you think he should be traded? And if you made this far, please subscribe and help out your boy a ton. That's all I got for right now. Peace.